Most folks who watched last night's Republican debate agree that the best line belonged to the new face on the stage, Gary Johnson.
My next-door neighbor's two dogs have created more shovel-ready jobs than this current administration.
It's a good line, even if it isn't really true. The original stimulus created 2.9 million jobs, and the American Jobs Act would create another 1.9 million jobs. But the line's gotten Gary a lot of buzz, a lot of great buzz, in fact. He's even the #1 trending topic on Google. Joining me now, the trending man himself, former New Mexico governor and current Republican presidential candidate Gary Johnson. He just got a glowing profile in GQ magazine asking, quote, "Is this the sanest man running for president?" Governor, thank you for your time tonight.
Reverend, it's great to be on with you. And, the jobs plan is to throw out the entire federal tax system and replace it with the fair tax, which is which would be a federal consumption tax. By all free market economists' reckoning, it is what the name implies. It would be fair. It would eliminate all federal tax, income tax, IRS, corporate tax, business tax. In a business environment with no corporate tax, that's where, in my opinion, you see the business community creating tens of millions of jobs in this country, because why would you grow, nurture, develop a business anywhere in the world other than this country, given that environment?
Well, let me start with your line last night. First of all, where did the line come from?
I was in everybody that I knew yesterday before the debate emailed me with suggestions on what I should do. Maybe you've had that same phenomenon, but a radio personality in New Mexico sent me suggestions of some zingers that he had invited listeners to call in and talk about over the last couple of days. Help Gary out. So it was really a New Mexico organic effort at coming up with that.
Very interesting, because Rush Limbaugh, I understand, said something similar. I didn't know if maybe y'all had the same next-door neighbor. But the other thing is, if I had your email, I would have sent you how the stimulus really brought 2.9 million jobs. So unless your next-door neighbor's dog is doing a whole lot of digging, I don't think factually you could say that. The stimulus provided,
Reverend,
just a second, hold it, let me finish the question, you can respond. It was 2.9 million jobs. That's a fact. We can have different opinions. We can't have different facts. We cannot say jobs were not provided.
One of the unique perspectives I think I bring to this job is that I started a one-man handyman business in Albuquerque in 1974 and grew it to employ over 1,000 people. I became the largest construction employer in the state of New Mexico. As governor of New Mexico, I never claimed to create one single job in the state. I don't think government creates jobs. I think it's the private sector. So let's just say that 2.9 million jobs were created by the current administration. What's real job growth? Now I come back to implementing the fair tax, throwing out the entire federal tax system, abolishing the IRS, and coming up with a way that's really fair. The more money you earn, the more money you'll pay with the fair tax, the more it will promote savings. And it will really set the groundwork for the private sector being able to hire tens of millions, create tens of millions of jobs that perhaps otherwise aren't being created here.
That's cute, Governor. I ask you about the quote. I ask you about the jobs. I go to your next door neighbor's dog and talk about the jobs he created. And the dog and you start telling me about fair tax and what you're going to do. But anyway, let's go to another point that I think you are unique in the party. How do you feel about the intolerance, the mean-spiritedness that's coming out in your party? You seem, as this GQ article says, to be much more of a person that wants to deal with ideas, whether I agree with them or not, and deal with a different kind of tone. But look at this statement in July. I want to put this statement up and have you respond to this statement. This is what you said on Family Leader Pledge. The Republican Party cannot afford to have a presidential candidate who condones intolerance, bigotry, and the denial of liberty to citizens of this country. If we nominate such a candidate, we will never capture the White House in 2012. I mean, I think that's a very mature adult statement. Are you disappointed with the tone of some of your opponents?
Well, the booing that occurred last night at the event is not the Republican Party that I belong to. It happened. It's a group of individuals that booed. I was chomping at the bit to be able to respond to that. And, you know, in retrospect, I really regret maybe not putting my fist down and pounding it. But, you know, I've been excluded from these debates, and I'm feeling a little bit like I'm walking on eggshells. I shouldn't have done that. You know, if I have one regret from last evening, it's that I didn't stand up and say, you know, you're booing a U.S. serviceman who is denied being able to express his sexual preference. That's not right. That's not right, and there's something very, very wrong with that. And when it came to don't ask, don't tell, I think we should have repealed that a long time ago. And we can just look from, you know, supporting that notion really A through Z.
Well, I respect you for saying that, Governor. Let me push you a little. Would you have also had the same position if you were on the stage tonight? They booed when they talked about a person dying, if they didn't have their health insurance, and people cheered, and a couple of people yelled out, "Let them die," or when they applauded when the question of 234 people killed under Governor Perry in the state of Texas, whether you're in the agree with death penalty or not, I mean cheering for people dying. Would you also say those two incidents, each debate now has had these kind of incidents, don't you think this kind of stuff is ugly to the American public?
I do. I'm the different voice in that debate. I changed my opinion on the death penalty as governor of New Mexico. It was very high profile. Naively, Reverend, I really didn't think that the U.S. government put innocent people to death. But as governor, I came to recognize that I don't think there's any question that we put innocent people to death. And I'm not in the camp that wants to punish or put to death one innocent person to put to death 99 that are. As public policy, it's flawed public policy. It costs more money to put a person on death row than it does to put them to death. And when you find out that an attorney gets someone off of death row because they're absolutely innocent, the fees paid to that attorney really are priceless. And that's what actually happens in this country. And talking about health care and let him die? No, that's not this country. We're a country of compassion. These are the people that we want to help. I'm in the camp that really believes that government perhaps is the only entity that's available for those that are truly in need. Now, the notion of truly in need, I think we've gone way overboard when it comes to that. And I am advocating a balanced budget. Reverend, I think that if we don't balance the federal budget, we're going to experience a monetary collapse, and we're going to all be left with nothing. And if you want an example of a monetary collapse, it's Russia. So I'm promising to submit a balanced budget to Congress in the year 2013. I'm promising to veto legislation or expenditure that exceeds revenue. And I'm promising to advocate on the part of throwing out the entire federal tax system and replacing it with the fair tax. And for more details for those watching, get online, fairtax.org, to check it all out.
Fairtax.org. Well, Governor,
yeah, it's been around for a while.
I thank you for being with us tonight. You said some things that very different than your opponents. Thank you for coming on the show tonight. I hope you'll come back again, and we'll elaborate. When I hear you talk, it makes me wonder, maybe there is some hope for some real bipartisan discussion if there's at least a sane discussion and adults in the room. Thank you again for being with us.